Oh, hey guys, it's Dr. Devin, and I get the privilege of bringing you a love letter this week on Valentine's Day weekend. And I had to giggle sitting down to craft this one from my heart to yours because it turns out wherever we go, there we are. And I love love. I always have, and I think always will. So it's not a shocker that here I am coming up with this big idea to send out weekly love letters instead of newsletters because who in the world needs more news right now, right? I think what we need now is love. What we've always needed and probably what we're always going to need is more love. So also, not a surprise, growing up, Valentine's Day was one of my favorites. And I loved making the little mailboxes. I loved picking out the Valentine's Day cards, writing my friends' names on it. I still tear up at the sappy commercials. I am a sucker for fairy tales and the happy endings that love stories bring us. I love going on dates with my husband, holding hands and hugs. I can't go to the stores right now with my head up. I gotta put my head down because I am 100% who the marketing is geared at. I love the flowers and the hearts, all of it. The day for appreciation and adoration of being in love is my favorite. And I had to do a little homeschool with my kiddos this week, and we were talking about Saint Valentine. It feels share worthy to look because history's funny, right? We do all these holidays and cultural rituals, and a lot of us don't stop to think about why. That's why I love homeschool because I get to have these activities with my kids to really look at not just the practices, but like where did this come from? What are the roots? And I'm sure there are a number of perspectives and historical details that have been shifted, but I remember story about Saint Valentine. And that's what I anchored the conversation with my kiddos about. And it feels so relevant to today to look at Saint Valentine and this Roman priest named Valentine who looked at what was happening as the emperor of the time was outlawing marriages for young men, believing that single soldiers made better warriors, right? Because love has always been and will always be weaponized, right? Whatever is of value, of most value, will be weaponized. And so here's this emperor knowing that a man in love, a father, a husband, a family unit isn't controlled the same. And so how can I use it and how can I divide and conquer to use for the emperor's good? But here comes Valentine, right? And he is going to perform marriages for couples in love, rebel. And he's eventually imprisoned and executed. And there's details that say that he had made a friend while in prison and signed a little note to her saying from your Valentine. And whether every detail is historically verifiable, I'm not sure. But I know that there's been darkness throughout all the ages and there's really nothing new under the sun. But in every time, as much as there is darkness, there's also the light seekers and the ones that are rebels of their time who act with courage, who stood for sacrificial love, who defied fear and authority, who brought faith and union right to the middle of the darkness. And that's beautiful, right? And there's other stories. I know it's layered, but when I think about 2026 and everything that I've been through, that we've been through, I believe 2026 is going to be a year of reclamation, of rebellion, of revival. And I think love is one of those antidotes that we need now more than ever. And so on Valentine's Day weekend, yes, I can focus on being angry at the sugar and the marketing. There's plenty that I could focus my energy units on. But part of that reclamation is like, yeah, actually, a day for love, a day for being inspired, by this priest who stood up against an injustice, who brought couples together. Like, that's worth celebrating any day, right? And how can I honor love today? How can I honor it more in my day to day life? Am I on autopilot with my loved ones? Maybe we need Valentine's Day as a little adjustment, right? Because we get in our head down to do list and we start going through the motions and we're living our lives. And then we have these holidays and culture says, hey, take a hard right turn here on Valentine's Day Road. Stop what you're doing. There's the social pressure to buy the flowers and gifts and chocolates and post the pictures. I get it. It comes with some duality of good and, using air quotes, bad, right? But will you be someone that sees the beauty in things? Will you choose to be one of the rebels who loves, who believes, who looks at all the things that are going wrong, but maintains faith and hope and love? Because that's, I think, how we redeem the light in things, when we hold them closer to our hearts and we get a little more intentional with it. And when we just hold a hug a little bit longer and we take a second to write a love note. When's the last time you did that? Send a little text message. I love you. I'm grateful for you. Looked into someone's eyes that you love and told them you were grateful. Let Saint Valentine inspire you to be one of the defenders of love and to stand with courage for what is right. That is worth honoring. And it ties to the thing that I really wanted to talk about this week. I'm reading this book called Resisting Happiness. And in the chapter I was reading this week, the question was asked, how many Sundays do you have left? And I couldn't wait to make this love letter for you because I couldn't wait to ask you that question. How many Sundays do you have left? The author's 42 and he says the life expectancy is 78. So he had about 1,820 Sundays left. I'm 43. So based on statistical average, I would maybe have less than that. That's assuming that we get to make it to that age of 78. My mom passed at 53. We never know, right? We're not guaranteed anything. We've had a lot of death in our community, in our practice lately. Young people, mothers, fathers, children. And death is one of the great clarifiers of life. And it has this way of adjusting you out of autopilot, and you get really present and you get really vulnerable in a moment and you go, oh yeah, I'm not going to live forever. This husband of mine, these children of mine, these family members, these friends, these people that I interact with day to day, this stranger on the street, not going to live forever. And it strips away trivial distractions and it invites some respect and reflection. And we get that invitation to remember that we won't be here forever. And so, what are you doing with your Sundays? What am I doing with my Sundays? What am I doing with my time in general? Am I giving it away to consumption, distraction, rage? Am I numb? Am I even present in my body, my mind, my life? Or can this year of 2026 be the year that I reclaim my time, my focus, my energy, and I devote those daily practices of prayer and movement and holding my people and creating something meaningful? Because I recognize I'm not going to be here forever, right? And I don't mean to guilt anybody or be, you know, depressing about it. I mean, death is one of the most beautiful parts of life. And so the rebellion And the revival of this time, like Saint Valentine, who stood right in the middle of it and said, "Yo, you're going to try and take love from us? Yeah, right." That type of courage, that type of rebellion is exactly what we need right now. And I believe that the renaissance of right now, the revival and rebellion of right now is our joy and laughter. I think the craziest thing you can do right now is remain hopeful and joyful in the face of all the temptations to give up your hope, to give up your faith, to give up your joy. Mm-mm, right? It's like that poem, Rage, Rage Against the Dying of Light. Oh, no matter the cost, when I choose vibrant foods and I hydrate my body temple, that is my act of rebellion. When I go to sleep at night with a peaceful, restful heart, instead of doom scrolling and giving away my faith, that we live in a beautiful and wonderful world, not a dark and deceitful world. And yes, it's there, but when I make movement and prayer the way that I bring light into the world every day so that I have more to give, so that I become the master of my mind, when I guard my heart and I strengthen my mind, that's revival in our daily acts of stewarding the body temple and the time that we've been given. And I get it. I Listen, I have had a few people ask if on the podcast that I'm going to be launching in these love letters, if I'm going to talk about some of the current events, if I'm going to confront, if I'm going to flip a few tables when we look at things that are really, really dark, like the Epstein files, like some of the media headlines, like some of the soap opera dramas playing out before our eyes in a very calculated manner. And there, I that is how I'm going to talk about it, because it is evil on a level I can't wrap my mind around. It is out of my spiritual pay grade, and I can believe that our better days are ahead of us, not behind us. I can remember that I don't have unlimited Sundays. I can tune my nervous system and not let the anger and the fear and the sadness run away by protecting my joy and my time, by loving the people around me, by holding my focus sacred. I become one of the rebels of the light. So I invite myself, you, to pray, to move, to read, to create, to serve, to laugh, to love. And I believe those things are the antidote for any darkness that we face today and any days. And I felt really called this week to share the serenity prayer because I know so many people feel the pull to engage or to end up down a rabbit hole, and we end up with all this overwhelm, and the yoke, the burden of the darkness gets really, really heavy. And so the serenity prayer has always been a compass for me in times that really don't make any logical sense. And some days I don't know how we're going to get through all of this, but I believe that we will. And faith, hope, and love are our way forward. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that He will make all things right if I surrender to His will, that I may be responsibly happy in this life and supremely happy with Him forever in the next. Amen.